let's head over to today's chapter, which actually is a short one. It's pretty much a lot of just the aftermath. And
Mhm.
really, I would say, one of the most important moment in Arya's character, another huge turning point for her. So
Certainly.
that is Arya 11. So Arya and Sandor try to reach the castle. Arya notices that the gate is open and armed riders are beginning to come out from the castle toward the pavilions where the Stark host is celebrating the wedding. She hears a wolf howling and music she faintly recognizes. The pavilions that the Stark hosts are celebrating in have been rigged to collapse. The riders from the castle attack the Northmen, collapsing the pavilions and setting them on fire. Arya and the Hound are spotted by the Frey men and have to defend themselves. Arya wants to go to the castle where her mother and brother are, but the Hound tells her they are already dead. Arya tries to run to the castle, but the Hound rides her down, bringing his great axe down upon her head. Of course, that summary makes it seem like, oh no, he killed her, but she did.
The last lines of the chapter, that's exactly what they are. And I said, man, how cheeky of George. Reading this the first time, you would assume that not only was the other main cast killed, but Arya was just hit in the head with an axe and murdered.
Right. Yeah.
Like, kind of, a lot of people say George just kills characters, but like, look here, this is a bit of a fake out death in some ways. This is him being a little bit, he's playing with you a little bit here. But see, it's not all for naught. She lives. It's good.
Yeah, this chapter is just as rough for me as the Red Wedding. It's they're just two of the hardest things, and I think I can honestly sum this entire chapter up in one line. Somewhere far off, or one little blurb here. Somewhere far off, she heard a wolf howling. It wasn't very loud compared to the camp noise and the music and the low, ominous growl of the river running wild, but she heard it all the same. Only maybe it wasn't her ears that heard it. The sound shivered through Arya like a knife sharp with rage and grief. More and more riders were emerging from the castle, a column 4 wide with no end to it. Knights and squires and free riders, torches and long axes, and there was noise coming from behind as well. So for me, it's just that little blurb there. The sound shivered through Arya like a knife sharp with rage and grief. And you will feast on grief, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. This is pretty tough. And also there's a moment where Arya's like, I've come so far. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, you have an opportunity as a reader to kind of reflect on, be like, yeah, you sure have. You're lucky to be here at all. And then you get to your point. I mean, this is one of the most deflating moments in Arya's character arc and probably the series as a whole. So close. But also, we talked about this last week. Also so close. Thank God she didn't go in. She would have been murdered as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because now there's no reason to keep them alive.
No.
Which is the whole big deal. Maybe because Sansa's still alive. There's no need to.
Oh yeah, they're killing her.
They would have killed her. Yeah, I mean, this chapter, by the way, is incredibly short. I think
it's a 10-minute audiobook chapter.
Yeah, it's arguably, it might even be, it might be the shortest chapter in the series.
Well, it's one of the things. So I actually was thinking about this. So I've read a lot of epic fantasy, and many of my other favorite authors do not always break it down by POV. They just have chapters, and they'll POV hop during the chapters, right?
Stephen like Wheel of Time does.
Wheel of Time will do this. Yeah. So it's like, this is one of those moments where like, I'm trying to decide like whether or not I love the POV structure of chapters, or if it would have been nice to have that all in one thing. And the reason why I will say that I think I like it better that it's split up is because let's remove ourselves from how unnaturally we're reading this book, right? We're reading one chapter a week forever. That's kind of what we're doing. That's a very unnatural way of reading. Most people are going to read until they feel like they don't want to read anymore. There is absolutely no chance that you finish last week's chapter and not immediately read the next one. So if you think about it from that kind of perspective, like a natural reading experience, amazing, right?
Yeah.
You're completing chapters, you feel the ball rolling.
And this is why I talk about the POV reads, right?
Yeah.
So think about this. If you're doing a POV read and you're reading straight through and you're only reading everything from Arya's point of view, now you just get to the moment to where you're at the gate and everything's so close. And the next thing you know, you get to the gate and suddenly everything's gone to hell. Yeah. And it's like things are a little suspicious next time. And now you actually get there. So it does provide two totally different perspectives on this idea in this chapter. And it's one of the things I love about it. And I wonder, you don't have to go into the whole bit now because we talked about it ad nauseum. But I wonder if that is something else that does make writing wins and things harder. Is like, I don't know if it's intentional, right?
Mhm.
Or if it's just he's just like saying now I'm with this person, now I'm with this person. Because in a way, are you then not writing a book twice?
Oh yeah, but that's kind of the beauty of these books and why they're
And
so nice to read.
you've talked to you've interviewed some authors and stuff like that. Have you interviewed POV? It doesn't what doesn't Erickson? Is it Malazan?
Erickson does multiple POVs in chapters. And the way he kind of describes his writing process, and I think in some ways we could think of George in this way. In some ways, um, he essentially has, let's call it like 10 short stories in one book, right?
Yeah.
So he has things that each character are going to do, and if you break them out and read it, you probably would get the full picture. Like you could probably read it through that way. I mean, it would be infinitely harder in Malazan because there's like I think there's like 1,000 named characters or something, and on top of that, the chapters are not split by POV name. It's just chapter 1 through 27 for all the books. So to me, I think that's kind of George's approach, right? It's like, okay, well, what is Tyrion's story in this, right? And he probably writes through that, and then intertwines other people's stories, leaves breadcrumbs for us to go over, but also he provides a lot of communication errors. There's a lot of miscommunication. I mean, a great example of this in this chapter is the fact that Arya is sitting there going, "The Freys are our friends," and then you're realizing you're like, "Oh yeah, Arya has no idea what's happened." Right?
Yeah.
Like she couldn't even begin to fathom why the Freys would do something like this because she has no idea about Robb. Though I think she hears like a couple whispers about like Stark, turn his back on the Frey girl, but largely she doesn't have all the information. So it is a hard writing process to do it that way. I think also just the fact that George wants to be dropping hints and tying in lines together and sequencing these chapters in a very specific way, which me and you have talked about at length. I think all that makes this harder for sure.
Yeah.
Another thing is, dude, and this is just the sad reality is that George is getting older, and George has to remember all of the hundreds of thousands of words that he has read to write these books. And
Right.
actually, in my interview with Stephen Erickson, writing the Malazan books, he wrote all 10 massive tomes, and he said that he would forget like what he wrote. Like he would have to like go back and like verify, or sometimes take a best guess, because we think, well, obviously they know everything they wrote. Well, no, they really haven't. Like, for instance, I've written a couple things. None of it's very good. But when I go back through, sometimes I'm like, oh, yeah, that's in this story I wrote. Like, you just forget. So part of me also wonders if George's advanced age possibly is having, effects. Because he's slower now. He's slower to speak. You know, Father Time waits for no one. So,
yeah. Okay. Well, hey, let's dive into a little bit of the points here because again, this is I think this might literally be the shortest chapter in the entire series.
oh, for sure.
So there's a couple things I really want to pull out from this. So I like the idea of dark shapes moved in front of the flames, the steel of their armor shining orange from afar. Kind of parallels some of like the dark shapes people have in dreams and things like that, where it's like, oh, like, but here it's like they're in front of the flames. So maybe that's something I'm going to highlight that in my Kindle so I can come back to that later. Like that might be something to do a comparison on later of like, because it's just kind of similar to the stuff the dreams like Danny has and things like that.
And
yeah, exactly. So when Arya knows it's a battle, there's something else that's pretty cool here. So just like a paragraph below, it says, as she's hearing the Rains of Castamere talking about how she knows the songs. It says the Frey riders were struggling through the mud and the reeds, but some of them had seen the Wain. She watched as 3 riders left the main column, pounding through the shallows. Only a cat of a different coat. That's all the truth I know, which is, the song, Catelyn. She's about to be different of a different coat. Because at this point, remember, they're about to toss her in the river, her body in the river. And then it's actually Nymeria that will pick her up and drag her out at the very end of this book. So kind of cool. But then Clegane cut Stranger loose with a single slash of his sword and slept onto his back, which is, like the horse, right? The courser knew what was wanted of him. He picked up his ears and wheeled towards the charging destriers. And then the song is playing a little bit more. And then is when Arya and everyone starts getting attacked and they start to fight back. But I almost like the idea that, like, Arya, who is sort of this embodiment, right? We talk perhaps of the stranger and of death and things like that, is maybe the Hound is the one, she meets Jack and Hagar, but really this moment right here is the moment where she's really decides, like, she's been on this path, but might be the moment where it's Clegane who cuts Stranger loose, right? Like, he's the one that really finally unlocks, and this moment right here is the thing that finally unlocks everything for Arya.
Well, yeah, and it doesn't even have to be necessarily Clegane. It could just be the event unfolding in front of her, and again, gonna forever change Arya's life. She's already seen enough at this point. She has more trauma than anyone I know of, but this moment might be the turning point where she's been talking about revenge in her list and everything, but now it is inevitable. And maybe she really will embody the stranger in some way because of the event unfolding in front of her. I picked up on the stranger usage here too. That might be a little bit cheeky of George. I like it.
Yeah. And then after that really is they're being chased. She helps get him the axe, the Hound's axe. She's shouting, talking about, like, do you think that my brother, he's dead? And he's kind of showing her, he's talking about his mom, like, maybe we can save her. He's like, maybe you can, but I'm not done living yet. Stay or go, she wolf, live or die, and then it's almost like your choice. And then Arya spun from him and darted toward the gate. The portcullis was coming down, but slowly. I have to run faster. The mud slowed her through, and then the water. Run fast as a wolf. The drawbridge has begun to lift faster. She's racing over there, and then basically she's caught by the Hound, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's kind of a fever dream of 2 chapters, an absolute ripper, and we go screaming into the second half of this book. That is unbelievable. It doesn't end here. Unbelievable, man. It's the best fantasy book ever.
Yeah, and
so good.
And then next week we move into Tyrion, where everything really, it's like now like you said, we're in the second half of the book. We're about to hit the purple wedding, and all of the bloodshed and everything of the red wedding will have ripple effects throughout the rest of the series.
Yes, and Tyrion is not aware that this was happening, which is, kind of par for the course now, post Blackwater, of him being left out, which is going to be a huge hit to his pride, and also make his life very awkward.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, with that, like I said, it's a really short one this week, but with that, we want to thank you for playing the Game of Thrones. In our next episode, we will be discussing A Storm of Swords, chapter 53, Tyrion 6.
If you like our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, like us, write a review, leave a comment, or send us a raven at btkcast@gmail.com or bendthekneepodcast.com.
We'll see you next time, and remember that winter is coming.